immediately. The honorable members who are affected are permitted now to enter the presence of the House.
More from the Speaker, who has rejected the sessions. He is acting like a headmaster while treating MPs as students. Also, Minister of Education reveals teacher trainees allowances will continue in the interim as subject to recommendations in the upcoming National Education Forum.
But more importantly, you raise the issue of student allowances. It will continue subsequent to the Education Forum, for which I have the pleasure to invite you to come. We'll take some major decisions based on the recommendations.
And tonight in the bulletin, we'll hear from the Teacher Trainees Association, who say they are unperturbed and are rather pushing for an increment of the allowance from 400 to 800 cedis.
Allowances are not enough. They are insufficient. They no longer, they are unable to serve their purpose for which they have been reintroduced in 2017. And hence, we're calling on government and all interested stakeholders to actually increase the allowances to 800 Ghana cedis or more, so that.
Still on the education front, National Union of Ghana Students threatens legal action and mass protest if WAEC fails to release withheld results within a week.
They should release it within a week, failing which we are going to commence series of protests occupying their offices nationwide, and we'll make sure that we are going to make it uncomfortable for them. If they cannot do the work, they should inform the government of Ghana for the government of Ghana to look for a new examination body.
And later in the bulletin, I'll take you to the northern regional capital, Tamale, where police in the area have picked up 2 persons in connection with an assault of a woman labeled a witch. We'll hear from groups calling on President Mahama to pay urgent attention to the anti-witchcraft bill. We've got details of these stories and more in the bulletin from now till 6:30 p.m. Do stay with us.
Starr News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takrady, Cool 103.5 FM in Ho, Rage and Might FM in Tamale, Somali FM in Wa, My Star Radio in the USA. Also live on Facebook on Starr 103.5 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Starr 103.5 FM.
Well, grateful for your company this evening and welcome aboard Ghana's most comprehensive news analysis program, Starr Today, here on Starr 103.5 FM. You're also streaming live for you on Facebook, so do join us on Facebook and on X as well as on YouTube at Starr 103.5 FM. And remember, you're a big part of the conversation, so join me with your thoughts, your comments, your views and contributions to the stories we'll be tackling this evening. I am Joshua Kodjo Mensah. The details now, and the 4 members of parliament suspended by Speaker Alban Bagbin following the chaos that characterized the ministerial vetting last Thursday can once again call parliament home. Now, this was after the Speaker of Parliament today rescinded his decision following a plea from leadership of both caucuses. The minority caucus, clad in black earlier, appeared to protest against the decision. But speaking on the floor, Minority Leader Alexander Kwamna Apenyomarkin, while taking full responsibility for the chaos, pleaded for clemency from the Speaker. Now, the plea was also backed by Majority Leader Mahama Ayariga. Listen.
We do not think that we should litigate this matter, even on procedure. We are more interested in the outcome, which is not a desired outcome. Today, I, on behalf of my caucus, would want to assure the public that such an action will not be seen in the public space again. Mr. Speaker, I take full responsibility as a leader on my side on all actions that took place. I will therefore conclude by inviting you, Mr. Speaker, to, in the circumstance and with assurances given, to consider a rescission of the decision you communicated to the House, as well as all consequential matters thereto.
As you can see, our colleagues are remorseful. Our colleagues accept your decision in good faith, and our colleagues are appealing to you to review your decision to suspend your suspension, to reconsider your decision to suspend. Mr. Speaker, it is not only members of the minority side that were suspended. In fact, the chief whip of the majority side was also suspended. So clearly, the conduct was on both sides. And I also, on behalf of my side, appeal to you to reconsider your decision and lift the suspensions so that our colleagues can join us, whilst the other measures that you are putting in place so that long term we can ensure the orderly conduct of business in this House is achieved. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
So you heard the Majority Leader Mahama Yariga. Before him, you heard Minority Leader Osahin Alexander Kwamena Apenyo Markin. Now, Alban Bagbin subsequently accepted the plea, reinstating the 4 MPs' rights to the chamber with immediate effect. Bagbin, however, insists his orders were constitutional and within the rights.
As a father, when your son commits an offense, you don't punish the son to the extent that you break his or her leg. That becomes a big problem for you, the father. And nobody is perfect. We are all fallible. So I listened to the apology, and here it was repeated by the minority leader for and on behalf of the members of the caucus, and supported by the majority leader. It's not only words. Before me, they demonstrated and assured me of their total support to me and the deputy speakers to ensure that we have an efficient and an effective functioning parliament in Ghana. So I am satisfied with not just the statement, but also their conduct, and I will proceed to lift the suspension of the 4 members of parliament that I considered were involved in disorderly conduct which amounted to contempt. The rules are very clear, and I did refer to them and stated clearly that because we are in the transitional mood, we will not be able to put committees in place, including that of the Privileges and Immunities Committee. And the standing orders grant me the power and authority to do what I did.
Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin. Now, MPs, Speaker Bagbin has also strongly rejected assertions he is treating Parliament like a headmaster and parliamentarians like students.
Let me say that I have read some media reports that some members of the House have referred to me as headmaster. Treating honorable members like students. I reject that assertion. But I can assure you that when there are students, there must be a headmaster. If you don't have a headmaster, you know what is going to happen in the school. The former Minister of Education is nodding his head. But I'll end by saying this, which is better captured in Latin. It says, qui multum datum. That will be done. Honorable members, self-regulation is better than external regulation. And so
you heard the Speaker of Ghana's Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin, there. We'll be crossing over shortly to our man in Parliament, Ibrahim Al-Hassan, to give us more details. Because after the Speaker forgave the 4 MPs and reinstated them with immediate effect, there was also the question on the committee's report, the Appointments Committee's report, and we heard Majority Leader also make some claims, and then Minority Leader also fiercely resisted some of those claims, saying, well, he's not been served with the full report, and so same cannot be deliberated upon in the House. We'll get more details from our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Ibrahim Al-Hassan. This is still Starr.
They should conclude within a week, because we wrote to them as far back as January 2nd. And from January 2nd till now, it's over a month. They should have enough time to have reviewed all these results by now. They should release it within a week, failing which we are going to commence series of protests occupying their offices nationwide. And we'll make sure that we are going to make it uncomfortable for them. If they cannot do the work, they should inform the government of Ghana, for the government of Ghana to look for a new examination body. But if they feel they can do the work, then they should do it, and do it well. When you're not done, you don't release any results. This should be the last time we should have withheld results. It's either you have cancelled the results or you have released it. And when you cancel it, the people should have addressed, before you cancel it, they should go through the process where they have heard. And even after the cancellation, they should be able to appeal. And those also whose entire results have been cancelled for isolated cases of malpractice, that should be reversed immediately with this particular exam.
So you heard there the president of NUGS, Daniel Kwale Boche, raising some critical concerns there. And he's joining me in studio. We'll be coming to him shortly. But NUGS is not the only body raising these questions and also demanding that something be done about these results that have been withheld. Frustrated parents across the country are also calling on the government and WAEC to immediately release the withheld WASSCE results of 10,500 students. Now, the chairman of the Ghana Secondary Technical School Parent-Teacher Association, Thomas Kodjo, has warned that if WAEC fails to comply, parents will take to the streets in protest. There's more in this report.
The chairman of the GSTS Parent Association, Thomas Kodjo, is appealing to the Minister of Education and other relevant stakeholders to intervene in the ongoing issue of withheld examination results for some students who sat for the West African Senior School Certificate Examination. The West African Examinations Council has withheld the results of several students from the school, leaving both parents and affected students in uncertainty with no clear timeline for their release. Last week, thousands of frustrated parents in Ghana's western region gathered at the WAEC regional office to demand answers regarding the delayed results. Thomas Kodjo is calling on the Education Minister and other authorities to step in and resolve the issue.
This is the most sensitive 10,500 students and then to pay be anka bibia. Why? Ghana, if you are calling for change aba. What are you ending? What are you ending? It's mampada makande as individual parent. Yeni akade yadebako. Yeni to yeni second. Na yeni to me esa yemfa nkoko. Me ebe kan de. Sa yahwe week to 2. now we release results now. Already now court has given them order to release the results.
He further stated that if WAEC fails to take the necessary action, parents will have no other choice but to take to the streets in protest against the council.
We release results now. You bet chase the go. Now I just say the Ghana football. Mama mpeda can the Ghana football. Oh yeah, na ya said and now bank ho. And now bank ho. But China a bimpa about the 12 November. Ma wadi yo nyanko na wanya wo yawa. What the bayo. Ti wo me na nka ho. Ni ambom ni ansre aban na wayi. We release results from my MA.
So you heard some frustrated parents from, they have the awards in the Ghana Secondary Technical School, GSTS, and they are not happy at all. They are not happy at all about the situation. But like I mentioned earlier, I have the president of the National Union of Ghana Students, Daniel Kole Buchi, in studio with me. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you very much.
If you can just get closer to the microphone for me, Daniel. And so, I mean, for some people, this is not the first time that WAEC is withholding results. And so, what is the big problem here today?
Well, we have come this far after a long period of dialogue. And this long period spanned over 30 days. You know, WAEC released these results on the 29th of December. Right. And after they released the results, we started receiving a number of complaints from students. Some withheld results, some cancelled results, some cancellation of entire results for isolated cases of infractions. So we wrote to WAEC on the 2nd of January this year, 2025. And they invited us for a meeting on the 10th of January, Friday, and we dialogued over these things. I believe that that dialogue was in very good faith. We met their head of legal, the head of their corporate affairs, head of malpractice, and we raised these issues with them. And they actually promised to fasten the process, quicken the process of the investigations they were carrying out.
Right.
And so we also took our time because we believe that there was still time for students to get admitted and the rest. They wrote back to us on the 17th of January, letting us know that they have carried out some of the investigation, they have released some of the results, but some are still pending. As we speak, they are now still inviting people to come and meet at their offices and the rest. And I asked myself, between me and you, which public university is still admitting today? So if after investigating and you release the results, of what use is that a release?
So for you, the timing is very critical because of the window between results coming out and then admissions and the intake by the various tertiary institutions.
Precisely. You see, we are not saying that WAEC has not done anything. In all our correspondence to them, we have praised them for the work they have done over the years. And we appreciate the enormity of the work that they do. They are handling hundreds of thousands of results. And so, yes, they are doing well. But where the thing is getting to, we believe is getting out of hand. Because if you are not done with the entire results, don't release some and withhold some under investigation. Because when you do that, it's undue advantage you have given to others. Because some of the people whose results you are now releasing have even done better than people who have gotten admission.
Right.
And yet, they are out.
And I want to find out, what are some of the complaints that you have received personally from students on how this is affecting them?
It's terrible. Some of the complaints have been from students whose results have been withheld. Some are parents who have called that their wards have gone into depression. Their wards are not eating any longer. Because you can see that your colleague who went to a different school have got admission. Some of them, you are even better in school than them and everything. You know yourselves. They have got admission and they are in the university and you are sitting at home because your maths or English has been withheld. And this has created a whole lot of challenges. This afternoon I was on a different platform. Many parents who were calling through. And if you open your phone lines right now for parents to call.
I mean, we heard from parents in the Western region.
It is
in the Ashanti region too, there was
terrible. It's a nationwide problem.
Challenge there.
And you see, we are just saying that if you were not done with the results as at the 29th, why did you release it? Why have you created a system where others have had undue advantage. And then the second leg is where a child goes through examination, does an exam or practice in a particular paper, and you cancel the entire results because in this particular case, it is a mobile phone or a programmable calculator. And in their regulations, they have something like that. So if you take a paper, a piece of paper or something, which are all foreign materials, some of them carry cancellation of a particular paper, but for some of them, they are cancelling the entire results.
Right.
And we are saying that that is equally unfair and too harsh. They wrote back to us and told us that they are committed to seeing if those rules can be reviewed from next year or something. But we are saying that this particular exam that has been written, you have treated some people unfairly based on the fact that they have written a paper. There is an also take very good stance to make sure that they are able to preserve the moral fiber and the rest. And we made it clear to them that, yes, we understand all these things.
Right.
And we appreciate the work that you are doing. But you see, in an attempt to solve a problem, you don't create more problems. Because that is what has happened now. WAEC, in an attempt to solve a problem of curbing exam or practice, is creating so many problems. And that is our point. You could have held on. If you couldn't stand the pressure, then you should sublet some of the work. In Ghana, we have just one national examination body, which is the monopoly that have been created, which makes it easy for WAEC to do what it's doing. If we had other examination bodies, I think WAEC will sit up. And I think that we as a nation should look at all these things and probably call for other entrants so that if the work is too much for you, you don't take up all the work and now complain that you are under pressure to release results, so you have released some and you are now working on some.
But
creating undue advantage.
Yes, and recently, just a couple of days ago, we saw the formation of a committee that was going to spearhead the National Education Reform Dialogues, according to John Dramani Mahama and the NDC. And let me just let listeners know that we earlier contacted WAEC, the PRO, in the person of Mr. John Kapi. He says that he agreed to speak to us. Now he says we should speak to the head of legal, the Reverend Victor Brew. Unfortunately, our calls to his phone have gone unanswered. So, Reverend, if you're listening to us, kindly get to your phones. We just want to get some clarity on the matters arising. So today at your press conference, among other things, you mentioned that you've given, a week's ultimatum?
Precisely. This week ultimatum, we'll call it excess time or extra time, because we didn't just wake up today to have this press conference. As I have explained earlier, we started this process on the 2nd of January. Today is the 4th. It's more than 30 days now. And so we believe that where we have gotten to, per our discussion with the WAEC officials, we told them that they needed to complete these investigations for students to be able to get admission. As we speak, all the public universities have finished their admission. We are only left with a few private universities. And we need to push for these students to receive their results so that at least they could get admission into the few universities that are left before this thing ends. If you even look at the NOVDEC that they advertise, they are finished and they are closing.
So I'll come back to you because we've been joined on the phone lines now by the head of legal at WAEC, Reverend Victor Brew. Reverend, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on Starr FM, sir.
Yes, my pleasure.
Great. Reverend, so really, what is the state of the withheld results? Because parents are agitated in the Western region, in the Ashanti region, in other places, and now the National Union of Ghana Students, they are also worried about the results that have been withheld because some students are going to school, others are home. Really, what is the state as it stands now?
Well, good evening to you and to your listeners, cherished listeners. Yes, I mean, of course, the results have, some of them have been released and some are still not released. So it's not a wholesale position. I think that I just spoke to one of your colleagues in the media that, we should be careful from a narrow context. There's this whole picture that is created as if an entity or WAEC just does not want people to move on. Look, WAEC is representing all of us. Just like the media is representing us to get out information, to educate us, to entertain us. WAEC also is representing all of us to assess people and to determine that people are deserving of A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. If we are not careful and we make this whole thing a sensational thing of parents marching up, nooks marching up, and lawyers going to court and all that, we miss the point. And I think that we should raise the discussion, the bar of the discussion to this whole issue of our education assessment and whether or not, persons who are not deserving of grace should be given, and balance it, of course, with what time frame WIAC should work within that is appropriate for good job to be done. That is my take on it.
Right.
I think we should be very careful with this whole thing. Both parents, students, and media, and WIAC, all of us should be careful and do a good job of it.
Very well, and I'm sure that that's why we are not having a narrow conversation, but we are getting all the stakeholders on board to ensure that we really look at the issues dispassionately. And I'm sure you also understand why the agitation is high, because parents are seeing the awards colleagues go to school, and you mentioned the timelines. Schools are admitting and people are getting unsettled. So what do we tell them now, really, from WIAC? Do we have timelines you're working with that they should calm down and wait for all of this to be done? Because, for instance, Nooks is asking the question that they started talking to you from the 2nd of January until date. If investigations are still ongoing, they find that worrying.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, we are all human beings. We also have relatives and wards who write exams. We have close relatives who are also asking, when are the results going to be released? And one thing we should know is that WIAC does not look at faces. We don't know people's faces. We are doing a job. The volumes are huge. And, the staff strength is not that huge, logistics and all. So the point is to do a good job so that we don't end up, should I say, disadvantaging some group of people and advantaging some, if I should put it that way. So the volumes are huge and the results are being churned out. I must emphasize that it's not an issue of all of them are stuck in there. And that's where the generalization comes in, you see. I mean, people should speak to facts. The point is that do we have 100,000 results withheld? Do we have 200,000? We should be scientific. So I think that we should work with data. If we work with data, we'll put out correct information out there. But if we work with generalization, Nooks came to meet WIAC, the results are withheld, released all the results. It's as if all the results have been withheld all this while. And that is not the picture. I think we should really work with data. So,
right.
Yeah, right.
And so, with the data, how many results, do you have a figure as to the number that you are expected to release or left to release?
I should cross-check that so that I will be accurate and not fall into the same situation that my brothers and sisters out there who are agitating are falling into. I think I should be accurate. So if you would, we can come back and be accurate with the numbers, please.
Okay. And we also know that some 24 hours ago, you also sought a stay of execution to block that court order that said you should release results. What's the state of that now?
Well, it's yet to be heard. So, as it is, we are more or less waiting for that application to be heard and for the court to make its decision on that application. Meanwhile, work is going on in terms of the others to make sure that we are not stalled. So again, let me clarify, because the clarity is that it is not that we are not working and waiting until the stay of execution application is heard. The issue is that some 11 schools went to court on a mandamus, so an application for mandamus, which is that an order to WIAC to release their results. Some 11 schools, candidates of 11 schools, which amounted to 10,000, a little over 10,000. But then beyond that, we are still working on other candidates and releasing results and cancelling some and releasing, cancelling, and release will mean that to to make people know where they stand in terms of whether their results are given to them or they are cancelled and so on and so forth. Okay, that's a broader understanding of it. So work is going on, So I want to clarify that the picture should not be that, WAEC is just stacking up with a number of candidates and not releasing, and, people have gone to court, Nooks is agitating, and we are just holding it. No. This mandamus is in respect of 11 schools with over 10,000 candidates. That's the only thing, But the rest, we are working on them and even with these 11 schools, we have worked on them. It's their own going to court, which kind of stalls the thing, and which also made us to also ask for stay of execution. So it told the whole thing.
But in the midst of all this, you say that your men and women are still working on the results and ensuring that work is being done. Nothing has stalled.
No. Because the clarity should be given that it's not all students who went to court or all candidates.
Right.
And even with those who went to court, we were still working when they went to court. So if you go to court, you kind of stall the process because then you have gone to court and we have to sometimes be careful how we go about things. And then we also ask for stay of execution because we don't want to set a precedent that immediately results come and people don't deserve, then they run to court, then WAEC is ordered, then we release it.
Okay.
What kind of... No. I think we should be careful as a nation.
Right.
If people deserve our results, you give it to them because they deserve it. But if there's a huge volume of our practice cases, WAEC should work very speedily. I agree. And it should be balanced with making sure that we don't churn out people who are not fit to, occupy various positions.
So the results are being released in batches, you say?
Yes, they are being released.
Because one of the concerns is that you should have waited, finished everything before releasing results, so that would have called all the tension we are seeing currently.
That is true, and that is what brings me to the first point I made, that it means that timelines, realistic timelines, have to be agreed among stakeholders, okay? Government, WAEC, universities, and all secondary schools, to put it that way, GES, so that we know that if you say work within 2 days, the question is that, is it realistic? Work within 10 days, WAEC, is it realistic? So we need to agree so that we know that 2 months, 3 months, nobody, we wait and all of us is released, and then those who are deserving go. Because even when all is released, some will not get the places because the universities will have their cutoff point, okay? But I think it is fair if we ask for the fact that we should all work within timeline so that all of us have our things released.
Very well.
Then, yes.
And Reverend, so as it stands now, parents are listening to us. Like you're saying, we are trying to set the record straight, not necessarily incite people and then get emotions in the way. So what will you tell them? How soon should they be looking forward to results being released?
Okay, so I think we should be calm and at the same time, speaking to myself as WAEC, we will also work very speedily to make sure that results are released very, very speedily. Again, I'll say that results are being released, okay? So I would have thought that those who have had years released, somehow will have a few of them, or some of them say that, oh, yes, we have had our results released, whether it's cancelled or released, so that the picture is not created. So we are working, but again, you may not be able to release everybody's results at a go.
Okay, so no clear timelines as it stands now, like not in a week, in 2 weeks, in 10 days, nothing of the sort as it stands now.
No. So if you like, you can touch base with me tomorrow, and then I can then be a bit more certain. But you call me just right away on the spot.
That's fine.
I think that yes.
Reverend, I will call you tomorrow. I'll call you tomorrow, and then we can have a conversation again. Thank you so much. All right, so
I'm grateful for your time. Bye-bye.
Always. Reverend Victor Brew, he's head of legal at the West Africa Examination Council, WAEC, and Daniel is still here with me. Daniel, you felt like, why? If Reverend was here, perhaps you would have been so angry at him. Because clearly timelines couldn't have been provided. He could not give us timelines. What he says is that they are still working, and so results are being released. Does that settle it for you as Nooks?
It's very frustrating Reverend Victor Brew was part of the team we met when we went to WAEC as a follow-up to our letter. And yes, I understand him. He's doing his job and he's working. But he should also understand that I represent all Ghanaian students from preschool to graduate school. And these students are agitated.
Right.
And his response is not comforting at all. It's even more frustrating that they cannot give timelines, because a little bit of certainty will calm some nerves.
Right.
And I believe that what we are saying is fair. We have waited for a whole month after all this. Many people were pushing that, Mr. President, Nook's president, what is happening? And this, you are supposed to do this. And I told them, my presidency will not be characterized by acrimony and this and that to show that as Nook's president, you are working. I need to dialogue. And that is what I have done all this while. But where things have gotten to, we need to make sure that we let these organizations understand that students are agitated, and which is why we are giving this ultimatum. And we really mean it.
So
we are going to call them.
Having heard from WAEC, you still stick by that ultimatum?
I believe that if they want to work within 7 days, they will be able to release the results in 7 days.
Okay.
And if they don't release it in 7 days, we will call our students, not just the affected students, but all Ghanaian students will join us. A lot of the tertiary students are ready and will join us to the protests.
And the Ghanaian students, all of us are part, because
exactly,
we are all students.
Exactly. Even Ghanaian students abroad are calling me. And we will make sure that we are going to register our protests in their offices nationwide, all their district offices, their regional offices.
Okay.
Everywhere we see a WAEC building, we are going to occupy the place. And then moving forward, our aim is that we shouldn't have any more withheld results.
Okay.
When we write the exams, if you are not done, don't release.
Don't release. And he talked about the timeline, that we have to have that conversation. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for making it to our studios. Daniel Kole Mabuche is the president of the National Union of Ghana Students, joining us to speak to the issue about withheld results and the impact that is having on the education sector. This is still Starr today here on Starr 103.5 FM. And still with education, teacher trainees will continue to enjoy the allowance in the interim, as the Minister of Education, Haruna Idrisu, has revealed the future of the policy will be subject to recommendations by sector players in the upcoming National Education Forum. This follows a recent report that the ministry intends to cancel the trainee allowance. Now, according to Education Minister and MP for Tamale South, the government intends to transition students at the colleges of education onto an enhanced students' loan scheme to ensure the delays in accessing financial support by the students are addressed. This is in line with the vision of President John Dramani Mahama to cancel the allowance and replace it with a student loan. Listen to John Dramani Mahama in November last year on the campaign trail.
What we noticed was that because of trainee allowances, we were not able to take as many people into the colleges as we should, because the number that we were taking was based on how many people we could pay the allowance. So we said, look, let's take the allowance, let's invest it in building more hospitals, in providing more hostels and classrooms in the colleges, so that we can bring more of our children into the colleges to train. That was our intention. And there is nothing wrong with training more. If we have a lot of nurses, we have many places in this country where they don't have a nurse, they don't have a health officer. And even today, if you have excess, you can export the excess to other countries that need nurses and health workers. And when they go and work, they will bring remittances back home to their families. And that money will come back and come and help the Ghanaian economy. So that was our intention. If you calculated the first salary of a nurse, it was something around 1,500 when you come out as a fresh nurse. And the money that was being used to pay trainee allowances could recruit 13,000 nurses every year. And so we didn't even say we are taking the training allowance away and replacing it with nothing.
So that's John Dramani Mahama last year. Now, in a meeting with leadership of the National Conference of Principals of Colleges of Education here in Accra, the Minister of Education and MP for Tamale South, Haruna Idrisu, allayed fears of an outright cancellation of the allowance.
We said we're going to replace.
But more importantly, you raise the issue of student allowances. It will continue. Subsequent to the Education Forum, for which I have the pleasure to invite you to come, we'll take some major decisions based on the recommendations. But off-head, there is no way you should be feeding a student at the tertiary level off-head. So we have to work out a transition from the allowance into an enhanced student loan for them to feed themselves. But in the interim, they will still get the allowances. Then just the next very few months going forward, subject to the recommendations of the committee. But I cannot conceive of a student in a higher education institution being fed. We can narrow feeding to basic and to free senior high school, but at the tertiary level, so they will still get enhanced student loans to be able to feed themselves. But in the interim, we will continue with the feeding and then phase out the allowance process, subject to the recommendations of the Education Forum. So we would do that.
You heard the Education Minister Haruna Idrisu there in a meeting with the National Conference of Principals of Colleges of Education here in Accra. But former spokesperson of the Education Ministry, Kwesi Kwarteng, reacting to the development, says it's illogical to scrap the teacher trainees allowance while covering the tuition fees of first-year students in public universities.
You can make a case of not paying teacher trainee allowance because your case is that it's outlived its usefulness and relevance. But in the same vein, will it then be logical for you to scrap teacher training allowance, then go to university and pay first year school fees? I'm saying that it will be very illogical on one side to scrap teacher training allowance because you believe that it's outlived its usefulness, but then make a U-turn and go to first year university students and pay their fees.
That's Kwesi Kwarteng. He used to speak for the Education Ministry. Now he's a private legal practitioner and also reacting to that development. But let's get on the phone lines and speak to Razak Swale. He is the National President of the Teacher Trainees Association of Ghana. Razak, thank you so much for joining us on the bulletin. Now, the plans to cancel, not something new. We heard from John Dramani Mahama last year. Education Minister says, as it stands now, well, they're not going to cancel it outrightly, but now they're waiting. After the forum, the future of the policy will be determined. But you say in all of this, what you want is an increase. Why?
Yes, you will recall in 2024 that we had proposed to the Ministry for Education for an increment of the allowances from 400 cities to 800 cities. This has stand still hold because it is something we are committed to. We are confident that when the allowance is increased by 100% to 800 Ghana cities, it would definitely lead to a general increase in the quality and the quantity of food being served in the colleges of education, and we will equally afford students something substantial into their pockets to afford reading materials and other essentials.
And so, what then does the conversation mean to you when the minister says that, well, yes, the plan is that going forward we'll cancel it outrightly, so we'll replace it with student loans?
Undeniably, we know very well that the government of Ghana and by extension to the Ministry of Education would want the best for the citizens of Ghana. And then with what the minister is saying, definitely he would have some good intentions for teacher trainees in Ghana. But nonetheless, those were views he had expressed that are subject to the recommendation of the education conference that is going to be organized. But we still hold a very strong view that when the allowance are increased, then the problems will be solved. Because, mind you, the colleges do not have enough infrastructure facilities that, like the traditional universities, that are also considered tertiary to enable them to be able to fend for themselves in the colleges. So there is a difference between infrastructure. So when you are talking, it is not all about tertiary students. It is about the fair share of the whatever that comes into the education sector.
So for you, are you not for the students' loan system that is being proposed?
For us as a collective group, we still are not ready for student loan or enhanced student loan credits that are going to be given to students, and then later on they will have to pay back. What is needed is for government to increase their allowances so that the principals will also have a good percentage to be able to enhance the quality of food in the colleges and students get something suspension in their pocket. In fact, if you visit the colleges of education right now, you would see that the food that is being served to teacher trainees is something so horrible, because the protein value of all the food has actually been taken off, because the ratio at which students are being fed is actually very bad.
Well, Razak, thank you. Thank you so much for your time this evening. That's Razak Swale. He is president of the Teacher Trainees Association of Ghana. And he says when you look at the food that they are served now, the protein content is taken away. So they are eating rock in school. And when they come out as teachers, he says it's not good for them. They don't want a loan. What they want is an increase in the allowances to augment what they are being fed, among others. So talking about food and education, let's mirror the two together, because the National Food Suppliers Association is also calling on the Minister of Education and the Ghana Education Service to reconsider the decentralized food supply policy, arguing heads of schools do not have the capacity to procure in large quantities. Now, government has commenced decentralization of food supply to senior high schools across the country with the aim of averting food shortages in schools, ensuring timely release of food items, and also enable students to be served with the appropriate meals needed for their development. But the National Food Suppliers Association say this is not the way to go. And to help us break that down is the Public Relations Officer for the National Food Suppliers Association, Kweku Amedume. He has joined me to help us understand the situation as it stands and why they believe this is not the way to go. Kweku, Happy New Year.
Many happy returns.
I have not seen you this year.
Yeah. I have been around.
Yes. And last year and the previous years, you were fighting strongly to get things done well in terms of food supplies and monies owed you and all of that. Now government says, I'm decentralizing it. And so let the schools be able to procure for themselves. You say that is not feasible?
I would like to say good evening to yourself and your listeners out there. And thank you for giving us this opportunity to air our views on this very important issue. It is important to us as suppliers because it borders on our business.
Right.
And any decision taken by governments, one way or the other, affects our operations. So it is important sometimes these opportunities are offered us to also air our view so government could reconsider its decisions on some of the policies it's taken. Yes, of course, we were out there advocating for the best decisions that government could take. And we heard government, when this particular party was in opposition, we heard that it was given promises of decentralizing it, giving the money to the headmasters and the business to do their own local procurement. I mean, we didn't want to get into it because it was that moment like heated debate between two political parties.
Right.
And we wouldn't want to be dragged into the fray to be seen as politically connected to any of them. And so we decided to lay cool. But given this platform and having them really going on their promises to decentralize it, we want to relate to them some of the challenges that they're likely to face. We are not entirely against decentralization.
Okay.
But what we are against is, the question we want to ask is decentralization only exclusive to giving money to headmasters? That's the question we are asking. Is it the policy that if we decentralize it, it means that the headmasters must have access to their money? is that the only definition we can give to decentralization? Because the process of acquisition, retention of food items, delivery of food items from the farmlands, not only to the market, because you don't have those farm quantities they require from the market. So when you're taking such decisions, you are asking the headmasters to do it. The headmasters, are they well positioned enough to be able to do what you're asking them to do? First of all, let's situate the argument to make listeners understand that the 30% of the procurement, food procurement we do in the feeding and the free SHS feeding program is done by the headmasters, which includes the perishables, the fish, the eggs. So we are expected to see some of these things in the food that we prepare. And they are supposed to contract caterers to undertake the cooking. And so it has nothing to do with giving them money. And when we talk about food shortages, it only has to do with money, funding. And I'm happy government itself has identified through the president that the only solution to effective and efficient implementation of the free SHS is to make funding available. Indeed, I can tell you that if funding is available, we will never have a case of food shortages on the schools. True of us.
True.
So it has nothing to do with headmasters being given money or not being given money. As I speak with you, if headmasters are not giving money, for instance, they require 240 million every month to be able to do procurement every month. So assuming government, they are buying it from us anyway. We are not against the policy because we are losing our market. Right. What we are saying that there will be challenges. There will be more challenges. There will be more food shortages. And I'm telling you the reasons why there will be more food shortages.
Because, I mean, the ultimate idea from what we gather from the government is that this is to prevent food shortages.
Yeah, so I'm answering to that. I'm saying that we have been in this situation before, but I'll get there. Cool. But I just want to tell you why there will be more problems. You see, if you're asking the headmasters to procure, the earlier program was that I give to government, and government gives me 3 months to pay me. Sometimes 6 months, sometimes 4 months, sometimes a year. You are aware.
Yeah.
And if government fails, because there's no ready funding, if government fails to honor its obligation before the money expires, as I speak with you, they don't have money. They are asking government to give them another 200 million Ghana cedis, even though they are not able to do total procurement of the 200 million they are given. So if government fails to honor those obligations as specified, how would the headmasters be able to convince us to bring the things on credit? Because suppliers are not willing to do with the headmasters. Reason being, we have been in this situation before. Before the introduction of the free SHS, we have had parents paying for their own fees. And so it was embedded in the fee, and then the headmasters were doing the procurement. And we have had challenges of embezzlement, challenges of misapplications of funds, challenges of court litigations against secondary schools and secondary school bursars, and all that. In fact, the successive ministers of education are my witnesses. They can testify to the claims I'm making here on your radio station that they have had to deal with a lot of fraudulent activities, a lot of embezzlement that the head of CHAS, all of them are aware of this situation. And so it was for this reason that when the free SHS was rolled out, it was identified that there were the school, to keep the student in school, it was the food that was going to motivate them. So if they didn't pay particular attention to effective and efficient delivery of the food items and then timely cooking for the students, there was no way the objectives of the policy
would be achieved.
And so they set up a secretariat, the National School Feeding Secretariat, represented or constituted by regional coordinators, headed by national coordinator, who were under the direct supervision and control of the minister himself. So that the chief director had no control because they were more particular
about
the food
components.
items. So these secretariats were to ensure that wholesome foods were delivered with the required weight, with the required quantity, and then at the secretariat, we had the headmaster, the delivery center. So we had the headmaster, we had the bearer, we had the storekeeper who were supposed to testify, do head count of all items delivered and taken over before pending their signature for us to go and make our claims. So if you are claiming of food shortages and they giving money has no correlation.
So if I get you rightly, the challenge is about the funding and not necessarily who is doing the procurement.
No.
So giving the money to headmasters to do procurement does not solve the issue.
Because the money still comes to us. But do you know why we are not sending the food items as we were supposed to send? Because headmaster in Trade Town will ask you, I need 18 bags. A headmaster in Homauli will ask you, I need 14 bags. A headmaster in Kumasi somewhere will ask you ask you all those. How are you going to do the loading? Over Boka.
Yeah.
I can't load from Techiman. We don't those things because of the pricing. I'll come to how the pricing is done.
Yeah.
Because of the way the pricing is done, if you want to procure from the local market, you will lose given the money the government is giving you.
So you have to go to the hinterland.
And so that's why the headmasters cannot do this job.
Right.
They're calling us to bring the food items, but they are calling us to bring something that we cannot make anything out of. Because I have to spend so much, pay TNT, loading and offloading, and then come and deliver.
Yeah.
And then wait for how many months before get paid?
And then the money even depreciates in
The
value.
money even depreciates. So it is difficult for the headmaster to do this job, and it is difficult for me to give to the headmaster. And I prefer to owe a government institution.
Okay, so government, you prefer that government institution owes you than the headmaster?
Because as we speak now, the government that exited, there were arrears of 200 million that we are trying to play with government to release to us. It was a debt carried forward and brought down by this government. And so this government is going to pay. And so if I know buffer stock owes me or GCS owes me, I'll be more comfortable to do business and give government credit. If government fails to give money 1 month, 2 months to these headmasters, they are the same people who will break hell loose that the free SHS is failing. It is failing because they are not able to get the money. The idea of, they actually proposed this idea of giving them money to buy their own purchases to this government. Because they proposed to the government that they wanted to do their own purchasing.
Right.
But to do their own purchasing, if it is to solve the mischief of what they say, if it is to solve the mischief of what did they complain of? Underpayment.
No, food shortages.
If it was to solve the mischief of food shortages in the schools, then it has nothing to do with you handling the money. Because you handling the money doesn't stop me from demanding my money.
Exactly. But then it now affects the schools because now you do not have absolute trust.
Exactly.
Based on what you have seen.
Yes. And they are not even asking me for quantities that I can bring and make profit.
Right. And you're in business.
I'm in business. If you're asking me, I need to bring, before we are made to bring, a supplier could bring 6,000 depending on capacity. So I'm bringing 3,000. Out of that 6,000, I'm bringing 2,000 to Volta region, 1,000 cities to Ashanti region. So when I send to a delivery center at my own cost, at the delivery center, from the delivery center to designated schools at my own cost, 3% out of my money. So government doesn't pay anything. Delivery center, from the delivery center even to the secondary schools, we pay 3% of our cost.
Wow.
They deduct it. We don't know whether it is given to the headmasters or it is not. We cannot speak for that, but it is taken out of our money.
So, Kodjo, as it stands now, if the policy runs the way it's running and then the headmasters being in charge, what would happen?
What will happen is there will be acute food shortages on the schools. We would have the tendency. See, let me tell you something about this thing. What initial program was that we don't determine the prices of the food items. The government has its own committee set up by the PPA. You understand? The members of the committee are drawn from different backgrounds. they go through market surveying of all the food items in the major farming communities and come to a price at which we buy maize, beans, and all that. And then tell us we should procure at that price.
So you don't even determine
We
the
don't
prices?
determine the prices.
Interesting.
Now you are giving the headmasters the opportunity to go through some determination, some influence in determining the prices. What are you trying to say? We have been in this situation before. We have been in a situation where suppliers have lost their money. So as I'm speaking to you, there's a lot of hoarding going on. Suppliers are hoarding the food items. They want to rather deal with the market directly. Because when I keep my maize, last year I bought beans at 1,100. I kept it for 4 months. It jumped to 3,500, 3,200 a bag.
Wow.
Out of 1,100. So I would prefer to keep my beans and then deal with the market directly. Because if dealing with government is no longer favorable, I can't afford to give my food on credit to the headmaster. But I can afford to give my food to government on credit.
Right.
And I hear a lot of people say those who were engaged in the food supply were political activists. And so that is why the government doesn't want to do. And what is wrong with that? Even they were political activists, now another political party has come into power. Get your people to do the supply. That's what you want.
But then the headmaster way is not the way to
Yes, if you don't want the current suppliers to do the supply, get suppliers across the regions. You see, the decentralization they're arguing about, the program is already decentralized. You see, I only reside in Accra. There are thousands of suppliers who live across the regions, all the regions. We have membership across all the regions who do fishing of these food items and go anywhere and purchase it at a lower cost than government wants it. And then pay at so much cost to come and deliver.
Right.
And then wait for some time to take the money. Now, government, you don't have money. Now you went to say you're going to procure through the headmasters. Headmasters cannot buy things on us for credit.
So what's the way to go, Kweku? What's the way to go?
The way to go is to rather strengthen stock taking or bookkeeping, train the storekeepers how to inspect and the kind of things to inspect on the way bill, physical inspection of the items. If you have to, if there's a complaint of under invoicing, complaints of under invoicing, those are the things you should expect. If you don't want the shortages, please go and look for money.
That's it.
Go and look for money and fund the project. If not, collapse the feeding. It is better than collapsing the feeding program under this policy than giving the headmasters access to cash to go and procure. Because the model of procurement is not favorable to those who have the food items. And so the food items, those who holding the food items are not delivering to them. If they doubt me, they can call a forensic audit on the 200 million they have released very recently to them and ask them to account for it. There'll be a lot of challenges. My brother, when the new government took over, there were challenges of food items. They sent in certain schools 150 cartons of tin tomatoes.
Yes.
That they were attempt to divert 100 cartons.
We saw that.
Yes, but it is very difficult for me. I take security of my food from my loading joint to the school. I hand over the risk of delivery to the school student authority. So if the food is shortened, it is by the complicity of the storekeepers, the headmaster. So if the headmasters are complaining of food shortage, they don't have problem to solve food shortages. The government has the power to solve the food shortages. The government has the power to influence agriculture through policy, to increase food production in the agricultural sector, and then increase food production in our whole household, how to ensure that those food items are transported. Then food will not be shorted, and making funding available to those who are engaged in those businesses to make those food items available. Your mama cannot go to Ejra and buy beans. No. He can only direct and make policies such as what he has made, so that there will be smooth business running, there will be smooth implementation of policies, and other engagement will go on smoothly. But if he's taking decision, or if through his act or decision he's taking, is going to hamper his own government policy, is going to hamper his own directives, because the direction is to ensure what? That there will not be food shortage. So look for money.
Okay.
and give policy decisions, agricultural directions that will bring abundance of food.
And that's it.
Headmasters giving or not giving
It's
will
not
not solve the problem.
Interesting. Kweku, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's Kweku Amedume. He is the national PRO for the National Food Suppliers, and they have concerns. They say, you know what, we believe in the vision. Yes, we want to make sure that food is in abundance in the various schools, but the way to go is not through the headmasters. Just make funding available. We will deliver on the mandates. That's Kweku Amedume giving us that update there. You're still listening to Starr today here on Starr 103.5 FM. We'll go for a quick break. We'll return with more.
Starr today. First, fast, and credible.
This is Starr today here on Starr 103.5 FM. Let me take you up north, but let's look quickly at stories that we've tackled this evening. And Speaker Bagbin, to 4 suspended MPs in the vetting chaos, he's reversed the decision upon a plea from leadership of both sides. You also spoke to the National Union of Ghana Students, who also had concerns basically about withheld results. We spoke to WAEC, who have assured that work is still ongoing. They are not being nonchalant. But let me take you all the way to Tamale, where tonight we don't have the best of news from the area, because police in the Tamale metropolis have picked up 2 persons in connection with assault of a woman labeled a witch in the area last Friday. Now, according to eyewitnesses, the incident ensued when a Malam allegedly accused the old woman of spiritually entering another person, thereby causing her great discomfort. The old woman was thus subjected to drinking some concoctions, rendering her weak and subsequently hospitalized. But let's go on the phone lines now and speak to Executive Director of Songtaba, Lamnatu Adam. Now, they have been involved in some work on the grounds in the northern region, basically for women and young ladies who have some critical issues. And the Executive Director, Lamnatu Adam, has joined us on phone now. Lamnatu, thank you so much for joining us. So we understand that this incident started with a Malam accusing the woman of possessing another person. Tell us about it.
Yes, good evening, Joshua, and thank you for having me. The issue at hand is about a spiritual leader, a Malam, who said upon recitation of the Quran, got a spirit acting up with the woman is possessed. And in this case, that somebody is either sick or somebody is dead, that has resulted to that being beaten, stripped naked, has even led her to be hospitalized. Unfortunately, it started a young woman who is to have been possessed, and the spirit has entered her. She accused this woman who has the witch spirit.
It's quite unfortunate, and your line is also not too favorable. If you could just reposition for us so that you can tell us what is the state of this woman as we speak now. You mentioned that she was beaten. She was also forced to drink some concoctions, and she ended up in the hospital. What is her state currently?
Yeah, so she's receiving treatment. She's been sent to the hospital, and today is her 3rd day at the hospital. She was made to drink some, she couldn't tell what it was, but it made her mouth sore. You could see in her mouth, when I went to visit her at the hospital yesterday, she still has sores throughout the whole mouth, and she keeps spitting, but she was on drips, and she's been taken. But to say she was really beaten, they didn't pour what she wore, and she was almost, in fact, she was naked. Which
wow.
Allegations can really put people in an undignified situation.
And so, what is the police doing about the matter?
Fortunately, as of today, as I speak with you, about 5 of them have been picked by the police, and we're still following up to make sure that they are processed for court.
So 5 people have been picked up so far?
Yes, please. So we commend the police also for for their action to get these people arrested.
So now, I mean, this was one of the reasons why the anti-witchcraft bill was passed by Parliament in 2023. Unfortunately, it did not get presidential assent. And I remember one of the lead proponents of the bill, the Madina MP, Francis Xavier Susu, leading the charge to ask the president to sign the bill into law. But really, what difference will the law make in situations of this nature?
I think that the law will support us in our advocacy work, because the law would then prohibit anybody naming or labeling somebody as a witch. And many a time we have our religious and spiritual leaders attributing people's failure and people's sicknesses or diseases to being the cause of other witches. And so we need to let people appreciate what the law would say and for them to understand what it means. Should you label another person as a witch? And so the law is so much for us.
Very well. Thank you so much, and congratulations on the good work you're also doing in the northern part of the country. And we'll definitely come to you to get to know exactly how we follow through this particular case. But we're grateful for your time this evening. Lamnatu Adam, she is the executive director of Songtaba, and they are a group operating in northern Ghana, basically for marginalized women in the area. She brought us the updates on the woman who was accused of being a witch, for which reason she was assaulted physically, also made to drink some concoctions. She got hospitalized. But one other group that is also working in this space is Action Aid Ghana. And the country director for Action Aid Ghana, John Nko, will be joining us shortly on the phone lines, because they have been championing the cause for the bill. They've provided platforms for advocacy, also ensured that situations like this are dealt with speedily. And so we'll get to understand exactly their position on this recent case involving a woman, an old woman, who was lynched, who was forced to drink concoctions, ended up in hospital as a result of accusations by a spiritual leader who claimed that she had possessed another person and causing the person great discomfort in Tamale. And the update is that 5 people have so far been arrested by the Ghana Police Service in Tamale for their involvement in this particular development. John and Cole will be joining us shortly on the phone lines so that we can have that conversation on what is the status of the bill as it stands now, and really what should this administration be putting some priority on in terms of the anti-witchcraft bill, which was passed by Parliament, and criminal offences bill, Amendments Bill 2023. We'll get to understand exactly their position on the matter. This is Starr today here on Starr 103.5 FM.
Starr today, first, fast, and credible.
Well, we'll still work the phone lines and get John in court. But before then, Benjamin Yamoa has joined me with the latest in the world of sports. Bengazi, good evening.
Good evening to you, Joshua. And we'll begin the sports today. And the Ghana police has assured Kodjo of thorough investigation into the supporters' murder. And the management of the police, of course, in Ghana has assured Kodjo of its commitment to investigate the murder of a club supporter at Nswatre over the weekend. During a meeting with the club's management and supporters union, the IGP, Dr. George Akufu-Dampare, expressed his condolences, reaffirmed the police commitment and dedication to ensuring justice is served. Addressing the police allegation, the interim board chair of Kodjo, Nana Apinkra, blamed the police personnel assigned to maintain security during the match between Kodjo and Nswatreman FC for acting unprofessionally.
Because the first call of first aid. And so 70 days can see you now officers are all crowd and Ranty ya supporters share or that from office police officer a tuition no now. Will be crab videos maybe I don't know what na ba ko gyina ɔno atwe ne kon na ɛhwɛ deɛ ɛkɔ so ɛso na menim sɛ mo na mo ba to as independent a year mo bɛboa yɛ number abaeɛ deɛ ɛno deɛ ɛkyerɛ asɛm deɛ abanfoɔ eyewitness report so deɛ ɛno so yɛbɛka no akyire ne yɛde aba investigators so ne ahwɛ na attitude of the officers are now on and the person with the two and I said at the end of the year I didn't see me but send a very debate to your home now watching a be visa a bar or mobile who say or mobile for a purpose or mobile or mobile what a saving life and yes or mobile better will be a chisel in the way and I'm in the way.
Well, Nana Apinkra is the interim board chair of the Porcupine Warriors, still staying in sports and the same issue. Now, Sports and Recreation Minister designate Kofi Adams has assured the public that those responsible for the recent stadium violence and the death of a fan in Swatre will face the full force of the law. Speaking on the game, Adams condemned the violence, asserting that no one is above the law and the security forces will ensure justice is served.
It's a matter we will go into its logical conclusion. All facets will be investigated. The criminal part to deal with murder, and so the one who committed it, any other person who assisted, abetted in any form. Detailed and proper investigations will be done. And this is a matter we're going to follow through, and I will be requesting regular updates on the matter. So far, I'm impressed with the interest the IGP himself have shown in this matter, but then the interest for me is not enough until we get to the end. It's a matter we are not going to leave to just end with statements and initial actions and that. No, we will follow through to the end. And it does not matter who is found culpable. The law will deal with the person to the fullest.
And that's Honorable Kofi Adams, and then sports this evening on the news.
Many thanks, Benjamin Yamwa, for the latest in the world of sports. Let's now get back on the phone lines and speak to John Nko, his country director of ActionAid Ghana, on that unfortunate development in Tamale involving a woman who has been accused of witchcraft. Mr. Nko, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I mean, I wish we were speaking on a better note, but unfortunately, this is what we are faced with. How bad does this come, looking at the work that we've also put in place to ensure that we do not have incidents of this nature lingering?
Hello, thank you very much, Joshua. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you very much. Let me say hello to your cherished listeners, and most importantly, your very good self for the opportunity to talk on this subject matter. The issue of witchcraft accusation and molestation, has been with us for some considerable historical period of time now. As you rightly put, there has been a series of interventions in the Parliament passing the Anti-Witchcraft Criminalization Amendment Bill. That didn't go through, but that highlights how intransigent the behavior and our culture, some aspects of our culture, has been, to the extent that our attempts to engender a more behavioral change has been hitting a number of setbacks here and there. The issue that happened in the northern region recently highlights the fact that behavioral change takes some pretty good period of time. However, there is a need for a very strong backbone of policy, or if you like, law or law review, to ensure that punitive sanctions are applied together with behavioral change communication as we are implemented at the community level to bring about, the stoppage of this callous behavior that infringes on the rights of very resource-poor people alleged as witches.
And so, in light of what you've just said, What does it then mean for us if we continue to delay in the passage or in making that particular bill law in the country? What are the dangers that we face if we do not take some stringent measures urgently?
Thank you very much. First, it would create a dent on our human rights record, because you know, year on year, the United States government, or if you like, international institutions, rank countries in terms of the occurrence of human rights violations. And so that's the first level. Secondly, it is also going to serve as a dent on our own criminal code, in which government, or if you like, our law institutions have sought to ensure that human rights are guaranteed, particularly in our Constitution. And so if the Constitution cannot safeguard the life, cannot safeguard the image of people accused of or alleged as witchcraft, then it means that our law is selective. Our law is not protecting everybody in this country, and more especially this vulnerable category of people. Thirdly, the loss of even one human life is a very serious matter. And that is why we are calling on government to undertake a thorough investigation of such callous acts that violate the human rights of very vulnerable, poor people in the community that are accused as witches. In this case, what is the law enforcement agency doing? My investigation demonstrates that the Northern Regional Police Command has taken swift action on this one. We want to see more of government action, particularly the police, taking very stringent punitive actions and sanction, or if you like, arraigning such culprits that violate, harm, or injure the reputation and the lives of people accused as witches. And finally, it is, going to be a dent on you and me, because we are supposed to be safeguards. We are supposed to be one another's keepers. And if poor people on daily basis are criminalized, are molested, are punished, are lynched, are murdered in such very callous ways, what is the role of the media? What is the role of development organizations like ActionAid? What is the role of human rights agencies like Amnesty International? It is in this regard that we have a lot of work to do in our hands to stem the tide of alleged witchcraft, molestation, and violations.
Right. So John, finally, how much of a priority should this be for President John Dramani Mahama?
Thank you very much. This is a very critical, important question. We on our side, as I said, we have responsibility. And in this regard, your media organization highlighting this violation demonstrates that we are speaking to the president. We are calling on the president, to revisit this issue of the review of our criminal amendment code to ensure that people who molest people accused as witches without the recourse of the law are punished. In this regard, government need to reconsider, like in the case of other legislation government is talking about, either to reprioritize, redirect, the bill into appropriate quarters and ensure that the president, currently President John Dramani Mahama, prioritizes, the interests of alleged witches. In this case, we are also calling on coalitions such as and government institutions such as the Human Rights and Administrative Justice to partner with like-minded organizations like us in the media to be able to prioritize advocacy around witchcraft, molestation, and murder around this part of the country. I believe that community elders, traditional authorities also have a critical prime role to play in this regard. And so collectively, we'll be seen to be safeguarding the human rights of people accused as witches. Thank you.
Mr. Nko, thank you so much. And it's always a pleasure speaking to you on matters like this. I know how passionate you are personally and your organization towards these causes, but we're grateful for your time this evening.
Thank you very much. and good evening.
So that's John Inko, Country Director, Action Aid Ghana, ending the bulletin right here on Star 103.5 FM. There's more news for you at starfm.com.gh. I am Joshua Kodjo Mensah. Same time tomorrow. It's a date. And many thanks to the production team, the Komaduma Newsroom, Prince Asian, Benjamin Saki, Adam Kodjo, and of course, the man Emmanuel for making it happen at the back and making sure that we're live on Facebook. Do have a wonderful evening. And big shout outs also to my man, Joey. Do have a lovely evening.